Hi there, Isolde here, and today I'm doing a Let's Build on The Sims 4 where I am building the Hufflepuff house from Hogwarts. And just to explain sort of what and why I'm doing this is because I saw Miss Griffin here on YouTube do a tiny house build that are inspired by the different houses from Hogwarts all in one lot, and that made me think of this picture I saw for a long time ago on Pinterest, where they actually had mapped out a floor plan for the different houses on Hogwarts, and I tried for so long to find this picture, and I didn't. But in trying to find that old picture, I found a new one. I will link the picture down below, but this is the picture that I found. And as you can see, it's quite a big picture, and I don't even know if you can see all the details that is in this. So I'm just gonna crop out the other houses and just have the Hufflepuff house up. So before I really go into the details of my build, I just wanted to sort out what a Hufflepuff is and what it means to be a Hufflepuff, because for some reason Hufflepuffs gets a lot of bad rep for some reason, and I guess that's because in the books and especially in the movies uh, we don't really talk about Hufflepuff that much. It's mostly Gryffindor and Slytherin that is in the center of those books and movies. But for some reason, Hufflepuff is sort of seen as naive and stupid and lazy, and that is not the case at all. If you're a Hufflepuff, you're probably hardworking, dedicated, patient, loyal, and kind. Because that is the different things that Hufflepuffs value the most. And I do think that this world needs a lot more Hufflepuffs, because there just needs to be a lot more kindness in this world, especially nowadays. So the Hufflepuff sort of mascot is a badger, and their colors are black and gold, or yellow in this case. And that is the color scheme that we will go with in this build. And fun fact, for a very long time I identified as a Hufflepuff uh, majority of my high school years, and the fun part is that I made all of these, not made them myself, I took these quizzes online to tell me what sort of Hogwarts house are you, and I always got Ravenclaw, but for some reason I really identified as a Hufflepuff. I guess that was like the creative dancer in me that felt like I'm not a someone who likes to study and learn new things. I'm more creative and kind and loyal, all the things that a Hufflepuff is. Now I have grown up, and I still have those qualities. Those qualities didn't really disappear into nothingness. But for the longest time, I really identified as a Hufflepuff, but as the years went by, I really realized that I was a Ravenclaw. So for a long time, I was a Ravenclaw in denial, trying to be a Hufflepuff. So now let's get back to the build and put up the inspirational picture of how the Hufflepuff house might look like. So as you can see, if you compare the build to the picture, it's divided into 3 rooms, the common room that is, and it's actually split into 3 levels as well, like half levels, but I couldn't really do that in The Sims without it just fucking up the whole build, and I just didn't want to hassle with that. So I had to skip that specific part, but hey, you can do other things as well. But if you look at this picture, it sort of looks like you have a gardening house, that they live in a gardening house, and that's why I decided to have the glass roofing, so you could get like the sunlight into the actual common room and the house. But when you read more closely into the picture, it actually says the common room is divided into 3 tiers, the 3 different rooms. No windows at all, so it's decorated to look like the outdoors. A lamp in the ceiling of the middle level looks and acts like the sun. And that is actually really cool when you think about it, that the big lamp in the middle is acting like the sun, like you get the sunlight without actually being outside. I didn't choose to have no windows at all. I wanted it to have a little bit more of a gardening house feel, I guess. But I didn't want to have those generic top to bottom windows because they felt a little bit too modern for this build. So I took the whole wall windows that are from Get Famous, that is matching the golden door that I chose for this build. And in the end, it didn't really match my vision of what I wanted it to show, but it was good enough that I could just let it be, so to speak. As you can see, I struggled a little bit with the stone floor tile spray paint or whatever you're gonna call it. I tried this like different technique where I made the pathway a bit thicker and used the erasing tool to sort of just fix the edges, take away the stones that are half, and for some reason it didn't really work as I wanted it to, because it's just erased from the other stones that I didn't want to be erased, and it just looked weird in the end. So I just had to settle down for a straight line in the middle, make the I can't speak, the grass a little bit more greener so it would match the grass that is in between the stone tiles. And now I'm trying to find a chair to use for the build, because the chairs in the picture are in a darker wood, but they have yellow like pillows or seating things. And there were a couple of options to go with, but in the end I chose this more almost throne like. You have like these arm thingies. I do not know English, I am so sorry, but it felt more aesthetically precise for this build to use those chairs instead of the others, because we had these ones that were a bit too modern. We had these that were a little bit too fancy, but these were just a great in between. And then I decided to change the sofa, because although it was the first sofa I came to think about when I thought yellow sofa, because yellow is one of the colors that is in this color scheme, it was too modern, and I needed it to take down a notch and be more cohesive with the look that would be in this house. Then, as you can see, I put down some trees, because in the picture, once again, there are trees sort of decorating the surroundings of the walls to make it look like the outside is inside, almost getting that sort of gardening house sort of vibe. So I put down some trees, didn't know what to do with it, because if I tried to put down trees in the corners of the walls like I wanted to in the beginning, it just looked so weird from the outside with just trees sticking right up into the air. So I tried with smaller trees, but that didn't really look good that either. So we are skipping the trees, but instead we went with these bushes with all the greenery and the yellow flowers, so we'd still have that feeling of the outside is inside without the trees. Now that the middle room is done, the outside gardening type of room, we go into the main room. And in the main room, if we go back to the picture, it's actually a fire pit. I do not have a fire pit because I don't have the outdoors retreat or whatever it's called. So I used instead two, not furnaces, what's the name of that? Wait. Fireplaces. Fireplaces is the name. And I put a wall in between so I could put up the fireplaces, then take away the wall and push them together so that they would be sort of the centerpiece of this big room. Just one quick thing before I go on to the other parts of the room. The fire pit is actually supposed to be level down into the ground, so you sort of need to get down to sit by the fireplace, I guess. Didn't really know how to do that, so I placed a mat instead that was this gray and black sort of color scheme, and put out some seating pillows that actually isn't in yellow, and I liked how it looked because it's a lot of black and yellow, and that just breaked off from that color scheme in a very good way without taking away too much from the color scheme that is Hufflepuff. Just putting down some more seating areas. There's a lot of place to sit in this common room, and I guess that makes sense since this is the common room. This is the room that all the students come to when they just want to sit and relax or want to study. And it's a school. It's gonna be a lot of students, so there need to be a lot of place. But for a Sims build, it's a bit much, I know that, but hey, what can I do? Now, I wish there was a light that could sort of simulate this sunlight effect in all the rooms. Not gonna happen though. So I went with a lot of wall lighting instead, because since the window, I almost said, the ceiling is all in glass and you can see through it. I really didn't want to have any ceiling lights because that would look weird in the end, just having floating lights. Although it's Harry Potter and magic is a thing, I decided to have wall lights instead, and it does look a bit dark, but in the same time this isn't a modern home, and electricity and lights are different in this time of age. And although in this common room you have this sunlight light in the middle of everything, can't really do that, so this is the next best thing, I guess. So let's go back to daytime, and we're gonna go to the sleeping quarters, or the dorms, I guess. And the dorms in Hufflepuff are actually quite cozy when you look at the pictures. And if you read the text, it says beds half set in nooks in the wall, and I tried to simulate that with like sort of digging into the wall, and it was a whole thing. I'm not gonna go into details, but the most challenging thing was the curtains. And in this picture it says curtains designed to come forward and drape over the foot of the bed. Each student has room for the truck at the foot of the bed, and a set of shelves and drawers on either side of it. There's a step down in the middle of the room. A lamp hangs from the ceiling, acting like the sun lamp in the common room. And the room is really really just cozy looking. I couldn't really get the exact feel when I built the room, but I feel like I got the essence of the room with the curtains on over the beds. Oh my god, my English today. I am so sorry. I have bookcases on either side of the bed. I have the trunks, and instead of the step down in the middle of the room, I actually put down a mat that is dark to sort of simulate that. And since I wasn't too happy with the color of the flooring, I actually have two mats. One that is yellow to sort of act like the yellow flooring that is there in real life, and then the black mat to sort of simulate the downsizing. Not downsizing, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. Then we'll go over to the bathrooms, and I made sure that there was room for two toilets and a shower room, I guess, and a lot of space for the sinks. Just thinking that there are gonna be multiple people sharing this bathroom, and I just decided to do it this way to make it more functional. Then I changed the lights and stopped recording because I was just gonna do the whole thing over again, and you don't need to see it twice. Once the both rooms were done, I actually decided to download the Pufferhead stuff pack, which is a fan-made stuff pack that you can download. I can leave the link in the description down below. And the Pufferhead stuff pack is inspired by just Harry Potter, but the Sims 4 version of Harry Potter, which is Henry Puffer, I guess. It's a really good stuff pack with really nice stuff, and I changed out the bookshelves, the bags in the end of the beds. No, that's not the name of it. What's the name of those bags? Trunks is the name I'm looking for. And just some details overall to make it a little bit more magical. Once I was done with the rooms, I actually came up with something. Not came up specifically, but I noticed something. These rooms do not have a kitchen. And that makes sense when you think about the Harry Potter universe, and that the fact that they are at Hogwarts, because they usually eat together in a dining hall. But if you want to play in this save or this house, you would need a kitchen. So I decided to put in a kitchen just in a corner of the main living space, just so that you would have that option. And I tried to make it look like it belonged there without being so thrown in there just because there wasn't a kitchen in the common room. And I do think it matches the color scheme and makes it doesn't look too modern, and it doesn't look too out of place. And that was what I wanted to do with this kitchen. Then I threw in some decorations because I felt like the walls were a bit empty, and I guess that's because I decided not to have the trees decorating all the walls. So I put in some decorating, wall decorating, some plants, some lighting, that kind of stuff, to just make it look a little bit less flat, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And then in just a bit I just take on the big task of the terrain of this build. And terrain, for me at least, is sort of a challenge. I'm not an interior designer, I'm not an exterior designer either. I just play for fun, and just terrain and exterior is something that I have a challenge with. But I have to say, like, spoiler alert or whatever, it actually turns out really good. And I'm very proud of that. One of my biggest, challenges, I guess, is to not make everything so symmetrical. because I am a math freak, and I'm not saying like math as in meth, I'm saying math as in numbers and uh, things like that. And I love symmetry, uh, but for it to look natural and not so man-made, I guess, symmetry is not the way to go when it comes to terrain. So I really try to do these rounded, um, sort of swooping motions with the pathways, sort of decorating the sides of it with some bushes, um, putting out trees, making them go different ways so it doesn't look like I just put them there to make it look nice. It actually looks like it belongs there. Or at least I'm trying to. Just putting down some bushes and grass around the stems of the trees just to make it look like it grows out of the ground more than just plonked down, and it does look a little bit more like the ground and the tree is sort of growing up together. That sounds weird, but you get what I mean. I don't know why, but for some reason when I do these pathways, I like to take this stone type of pathway and then take not gravel around the edges. I don't know why, but for some reason that looks neater and in a more natural way, not like neat in a perfectionist way, but it's sort of like, yeah, we have this stone pathway, but there's some gravel around it before the grass really connects to it. I don't know, I guess that's more of a thing I have seen more of here in Sweden. I don't know if that's the way nature even works, but it looks nice, and I tend to do it a lot. And then I just fixed this outside place where you can just sit down and have a chat with your friends, maybe have a little bit of a barbecue, just have a fun time outside because, you don't want to be inside all the time. And then I just put down some greenery around the corners and the edges of everything to make it look a little bit more natural. Then after that, I put down these planting boxes, I guess it is, not pots specifically. And that's because I really like this idea of Hufflepuffs being really not just kind to one another and to uh, fellow wizards and witches, but also to the nature, and that they like to take care of it and like to grow plants and gardening and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted them to have a garden that where they could actually plant all these fun, different vegetables that are a little bit more magical, I guess. And I do think that Miss Pumphrey, is that her name? The teacher for the gardening class, I don't know. She is the head mistress, whatever, of Hufflepuff, if I'm not very wrong about this. So don't quote me on that one, but I do think that gardening is a big thing, I guess, when it comes to Hufflepuff. But that might just be me talking. Uh, so let's go on to the back side of this house. And as you can see, I put down a fire pit, and I just explained to you why I don't have it. But in the end, I am so happy with how it looked on the inside that I did not decide to take away the fireplace and replace it with a fire pit. Instead, I put it outside so that you can have a little bit more fun with your friends, just hanging out, having social time, whatever. You know the drill by now. But still having that fire pit. And this fire pit is from Get Together. So you can't really do anything else but put up a fire. So you can't grill anything on it or anything like that. So that's a bummer, but the thought counts, I guess. And then I fixed the train a bit because I didn't feel like I wanted all of the land to be flat. It's sort of, I want it to be all natural. I have talked about this. You don't need to hear it one more time. But after this, I'm actually pretty done with this build. So this is the Hufflepuff house, all done. I'm real proud of how it turned out. I do think I captured the Hufflepuff essence in this house. It's all ready to play, to download in the gallery. Just make sure you check in the modded option so that you can see it, since it does have the Pufferhead stuff pack. But stay tuned, because next time I will do the Gryffindor tower, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!